Hi guys, welcome back. This might be a quick video, might be a long video. I don't know. It popped into my head the other night, so I wanted to do it before I forgot about it. I should just write shit down, but I generally don't. Sometimes I do, most of the time I don't, and I forget. Uh, Luckily, I didn't forget this one. I think it's a cool idea for a video. You may hate it, but hey, whatever. I'm gonna do it anyway. um, I got thinking the other night because I'm still doing the Calvin Kleins. And I'll be back with later tonight or early tomorrow with a day with. Still on the Calvin Klein. Just everything happened over the last couple of weeks. I kind of lost track, but I'm back on track now. Um. Anyway, I got thinking. A lot of people don't realize just how big Calvin Klein was. Do you know what I mean? They don't. They see it today. A lot of younger guys, and even guys, older guys like me, see most new Calvin Klein releases as just that, another Calvin Klein release, and whatever. But they were huge, man, huge back in the day, ridiculously big. Like they were the one to own. There was no. Most people didn't really know. You knew of stuff like Dior and Chanel and stuff like that, but it wasn't. It was out of most of our price range because Calvin Klein's never been extremely expensive. They're a lot more expensive back then than they are now, but they were still doable for most of us. And even guys like me, I could get a Calvin Klein. I couldn't get them all. So I got a lot of the dupes, which I was fine with. It's kind of what got me into dupes was the fact that I couldn't afford nothing. Talked about it before. We were po. So yeah. Anyway, I decided to do this little 10 list again because you like your list, and I don't mind doing them. Um, 10 you had to be there fragrances, like like that. You wouldn't. You just didn't know if you didn't live it, if you weren't of a certain age, how big and popular these were. And most of it involves uh, a money factor. Not all of them, but a money factor. Especially the first one I'm going to mention because these were good and relatively cheap. Um, and everybody that I went from late elementary all the way up to, geez, the end of high school had, if they had a cologne, it was generally from this first house, and that's Cody. Uh, I don't get bottles for every one of these. I didn't want to bring all the bottles down because it's just a more of a ramble video, I guess, than a top 10. But Cody, you had Gravity, you had Aspen, you had Preferred Stock. Oh, nanny. Um, Among others, Universo, Avatar. Uh, my favorite that is like 200 some dollars now if you want a bottle was Raw Vanilla. Ooh, that's a lot of money for a Cody fragrance. But hey, apparently a lot of other people liked it because it's super expensive. And Cody was huge. They were the go-to scent, and I think still are. Maybe not. I don't know for like the junior high S guys and girls. They had like exclamation and geez, a few other scents for women, and they were huge. They were about $15 to $20 a bottle max. You could pick them up at any department store, any pharmacy. A couple even corner stores had a few of them in. I remember the corner store by me. It was all aftershaves, but they had Aspen and Preferred Stock and Stetson and a couple others aftershaves there. So you can pick them up anywhere. They're relatively cheap. You could save up your allowance for a few weeks and afford to get a bottle. Or you could ask for a bottle or two at Christmas and usually got them. So Cody was huge, man. Cody was huge. The next scent I don't have a bottle of. Uh, all I have is an old dupe from Belcam, Classic Match, and that's with this is my old. I mean, it's so old. I lost the sprayer. I had to put a new nozzle on it, and I lost the cover. This is from about, I want to say 90, 92, 93 ish. This bottle here. Um, that's Polo Green. For those of you who don't know, it was the first scent that got me into scents, other than dabbling into the old man's preferred stock and brute and stuff like that, and English leather and Grampy and stuff. It was the first scent I remember my sister and her girlfriends always talking about the boys wearing. Oh, they smell so good. And this is like 88, 89. I was too young for a cologne, but a couple years later, I I didn't buy it, I got it. It's a gift, I imagine. Um, and yeah, it was all over for a few years. It was all over the place in the 80s. I mean, it was one of them ones that was all over the place. Um, then it brings me to the start of high school, 94, 95 ish. Um, and this scent, I mean, it had been around for a few years, but it seemed to really blow up then. And I think it had something to do with like the rap scene, because Snoop Dogg, I got the Johnson Baby Powder and Cool Water Cologne. And it blew up for a couple years. It was, well, for quite a few years, still is really one of the main players. You know, it was the main player until it was between this and a Calvin Klein and another one I'll get to. They're all on this list. Those were the three that were the big ones, and out of all of them, this I find was the biggest with that age group. Um, I don't know if it had to do with the price. I don't remember the price of it. I only had the. Where's it at here? Is this it? Yeah, I only had the cheap dupe, the classic match. I couldn't afford that. Oh, they smell identical. And this is an old ass, but this is my original bottle. Um, well, a friend's original bottle they picked up back in like 94, 95. It's only got a little bit left in it. The writing's worn off on it. You know, it's a beautiful scent though. Um, what's next? What's next? I should have brought it. I didn't bring the bottle, but Jacquard Noir. I mean, again, I was too young really when Jacquard was big, but I caught the tail end of it in my early preteens and teens. I caught the tail end of Jacquard, and it was still huge. It was right there with Polo Green. That was the two at the time, and again, it was one of those ones that everybody seemed to have. I still love Jacquard Noir. It is probably my favorite old scent. Um, in terms of smell, nostalgia wouldn't be, of course, but in terms of smell, it still smells great today. More than wearable, beautiful scent. Um, and I remember my cousin got a bottle one year of actual real Jacquard Noir. All I had again was the cheap dupe, which was still great, but he got a real bottle of Jacquard Noir, and I was fascinated. I was like, ooh, he was 4 or 5 years older than me, but I was still fascinated by it. And when we go over his house, I'd always spray on way too much of it. It was great. It was great. Um, the next scent, Tommy, by Tommy Hilfiger, again around the same time as Cool Water. Um, and it fought it out with Cool Water, and like I said, a couple other scents around that time that were the big ones. Um, this was early high school, all the way up to the end of high school. You know what I mean? And it's this. Again, I only had the dupe. Is this the dupe? I only got a tiny bit of this left, but I got another bottle. Tommy. I liked it back then. I don't really like it now. It's funny. Just one of those ones I don't really like now. But I liked it back then. I don't think I'd wear it now. It's kind of maybe I don't know. But I mean you can't deny the impact it had uh, back then. Again, it was one of those ones that was everywhere. Every boy was wearing it, and a couple girls I knew wore it because it was a nice scent. Um, she didn't grab this bottle either. Adidas Moves. It again was with that Tommy, uh, Cool Water, and Adidas, and a couple more I'm going to mention here. They were all in that era. And geez, it was a great scent. A cheaper scent at the time, still. It was still around the $20 mark, $15, $20 mark, like Cody's were. Especially if we got it at Christmas, right after Christmas at Walmart. They always had the box sets on sale. It was just a fresh, fun scent that I liked, a lot of other guys liked, and we wore generally all day, mostly after sports and gyms and stuff. We'd spray that crap on and just Adidas Sports, you know. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, uh, yeah, it was huge. It was huge. Um, the next one, Polo Sport. Um, yeah, just Polo Sport. It was, again, another one in high schoolish that people, boys loved, girls loved too. It's great. And I only had the dupe, and I only have a tiny bit left. I swore I had another bottle, but I don't know where it is. And I lost the cap, and just, geez, I'm not spraying it, but this. And these old classic matches that I have are way better than most of the newer formulations of these, believe it or not. Um, so yeah. Fahrenheit. What can I say about Fahrenheit? Um, this was come out. I'm not even sure if I was even in school when Fahrenheit came out, but I fell in love with it in high school. And it was the only bottle of like real expensive cologne that I got. I asked for one Christmas and got it, a little bottle of it, and I wore it sparingly, but still enough to be the Fahrenheit guy at school, the expensive cologne guy. And Polo Green kind of piqued my interest, I guess, and started it in cologne. Fahrenheit got its claws into me, and that's when I started right then and there. I got that first bottle of Fahrenheit. I was like, I'm gonna have all the colognes I want, and now I do, and way more than that. So Fahrenheit, and it wasn't all over in the high schools and stuff. It was more the older men at the time when I was in high school. And I say older, in their 20s, maybe their 30s. I mean, they were still young men. And, but every time, like, my cousins would come over or we'd be out at family functions, always seemed to be the young men were just doused in Fahrenheit. It was all over the city. So if it was all over this little city, I imagine it was all over the bigger cities too in that time. And it was great. I loved it. Aqua di Gio. As much as I'm not a big fan of Aqua, not to hate Aqua di Gio, I think it's great. It's just not my style of scent. I can't deny the fact that in the mid 90s or whatever, early 2000s, it was everywhere. I mean, you couldn't walk in the mall and not smell at least 10, 15, 20 people wearing Aqua di Gio, and not just boys. Girls, men, women, they were all wearing it. And I remember being at the movie theater one night. I don't know what movie we were seeing. I was with my friends, and I think it was like The Hideaway or something. I can't remember now. It had Jeff Goldblum in it. And it was March break, which is pretty much now, so 25 years ago now, Jesus. And the guy in front of me he must have just sprayed it on, got out of his car, because he loaded it on, and he stunk up the whole place, but in a good way. Still too much, but I didn't mind. And the last one was the one I talked about at first, Calvin Klein. Huge. I mean, there was not a boy or girl who didn't have, want, know of a Calvin Klein scent. You guys really have. This is the big one. You have no idea, if you didn't live through the 80s and the 90s and even somewhat into the early 2000s, you just don't know how big he was. I can't describe how big Calvin Klein was for scents and clothes even. Everybody wanted a Calvin Klein shirt, sweater. I had a couple t-shirts. I had a pair of sneakers. All stuff I got from the thrift store, of course, because I could never afford it at the time. And just everywhere. I mean, Marky Mark standing in his underwear doing Calvin, and he was called Marky Mark back then. He wasn't Mark Wahlberg. He was Marky Mark of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Good vibrations, whatever. Yeah, he was everywhere. I mean, we had even in this little city, we had billboards for Calvin Klein ads. You couldn't turn on the TV and not see a Calvin Klein ad. There was no internet. I mean, there was an internet, but it wasn't like it was. It was very rudimentary. So Calvin Klein was huge. And the ones that were big, there was a couple for girls, of course. But I mean, I'm going to focus on the boys ones because that's what I am. The big ones I remember were Obsession was big, but it was already kind of ran its course by that point. This is mid 90s. But Escape was still a huge one. Everybody loved Escape. Eternity was another one that was big, but not as big as Escape. But the big one that came out that really just, it was a bestseller, still is a bestseller if I'm not mistaken from to this day, was CK1. And when I say everybody wore it, I don't mean every other, I mean everybody had either a bottle of CK1 or a bottle of this. Belcam's Gender One. Pretty much a one-for-one perfect dupe in smell, performance, all that stuff. I still like this stuff today. I know there's some people that just, oh no, I don't like it. I've loved this stuff from day one. Yeah, CK, just this nice, fresh scent. Unisex, definitely unisex, but a perfect unisex scent, if I can say that. Because a lot of companies is unisex and they'll lead more feminine usually, but sometimes they'll lead more masculine. That's the majority of unisex scents. They kind of lean one way or the other. This one is right down the middle. It smells perfect on a boy, on a girl, on a man, on a woman. Powdery, lemony, citrusy, musky, florals. Just a beautiful scent. I still would wear it today, honestly. I probably should. I haven't in so long. I'll wear some of these. But between, I'll say, at least in junior high and high school, mostly high school, we had the big ones were anything Cody, because they were cheap, but we'll leave them out for now. Cool Water, Tommy, Adidas Moves, Polo Sport, and CK1. Aqua di Gio, you could say for the older generation, you know, the guys in their 20s and 30s, because it was expensive compared to even the Calvin Klein. You could pick up a Calvin Klein CK1 for like $50 back then, $60, whereas an Aqua di Gio was like $90, $100 even back then. So those were the big five, really big five when I was in high school. And you could also throw in for about 6 or 7 months, seemed Michael Jordan. I don't know which one, just the first one, whatever, just Michael Jordan, I think was called. And it smelled very similar to Tommy anyway. And, but those were the big five. Cool Water, Tommy, Adidas Moves, Polo Sport, and Calvin Klein CK1. But the big one of all of them, really believe it or not, was CK1. It was huge, guys, huge. It, like I said, I can't think of a clone since, not even Sauvage, you know, the one that everybody has, that they had the same amount as CK1. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so when you hear old guys like me talk about Calvin Klein or Tommy Hilfiger or Davidoff, remember, instead of making fun of us, well, no, still make fun of us because it is funny. We're old. Remember, we're remembering to us, that was our, you know, our Blue de Chanels, our Sauvages, our La Nuit de L'Hommes, our Dolce and Gabbanas. You know, they were the big ones, the ones all the boys had. Thank God I missed the Axe craze. I mean, I like Axe. I have a bunch of Axe, but I don't know if I would have gotten the cologne as I did if my real first experience was Axe body spray. Um, and I might have. I don't know. But thankfully, my sister, for the most part, is to blame for this craziness that is my life. When she was talking about all the boys in the polo, you know, and ooh, girls like guys who smell good. So, yeah, anyway, guys, this is just for fun video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back, like I said, Jesus, 20 minutes, holy crap. I'll be back with a day with some point today or tomorrow. It's Calvin Klein Escape. I'll be back on the Calvin Kleins. I still got a bunch to do. Then I'm going to do the bell camps, I think, next. Let the shelf pick. But, all right, guys, peace, love, be good to each other.